I got into meditations. I would try to go into the meditations. I would sometimes feel very peaceful. Sometimes those questions just would dissolve, like it would just go away. Like, okay, it doesn't matter. Just stay here and have fun. But then I would be back to where I was again with the question. So I just don't know. I feel like I'm just so weird and confused. And have you ever felt that way?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for a very long time.
Yeah, it's just so hard. Like, people, and that's why when I hear you guys talking, I'm like, okay, I know what she means when she says that, or I can just tell that little connection because I don't think anybody else understands. And it feels lonely, very lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, it can feel a little isolating if you don't have people around you that yeah, are wondering the same things and interested in similar things. Yeah, so that's pretty normal. Yeah, I've definitely felt that way too.
Did you feel that for years? Because it's almost suffocating for me, like it's just so hard to bear with it. That little part who is constantly inquiring, and then it gets frustrated, and I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm just gonna live life and die one day. But day it comes back.
Yeah, that seeking energy, so it can seek in any way. The energy there apparently seems really strong with awakening or enlightenment or the question of why, what is this? So it'll continue. It's not really a good or bad thing. It seems like sometimes that's just what's happening. That's what's arising for, certain individuals. Yeah, so even the frustration around it is just what's arising, and that's also kind of normal too, because really there is no answer. And the frustration is that you keep trying and you do different spiritual practices, you read different spiritual books, and you follow different spiritual people, and but there's never an answer. There's never a final destination, because it's the very seeking energy that can veil the wholeness, the non-separation.
To even discover that in this perception, we call it as a goal, right? It's a destiny though. Like, even if I know, like in many videos you see and they say, it's not like a goal or destiny, like what you're saying. And I know it probably would make sense when you are there, but right now, because you feel like you are not there, to even uncover that, isn't that a destiny too? Or like a goal?
It will most probably seem like a goal as long as the sense of me is there. Because it can't help but feel separate. It can't help but feel like it's missing something. So this is just a description, and it's just the way it is. And there's really no saying if it'll fall and dissolve or if it'll stay there until the body dies. So some relief, this can be devastating and a relief, that there's really nowhere to get to. So no matter what you do, no matter what you don't do, so if you do the spiritual practices, if you stop the spiritual practices, that's already just this. So regardless, it's already just this.
So that's because I have one question on that. Like, I'm like, I heard that a few times, right? In your videos and some other I hear. I'm like, if that's the case, it's a huge business in Eastern countries, you know, these huge organizations, respectable gurus, they charge lots of money just to promise you that they'll get you there.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when you're saying that, it's almost like, yeah, that's of no use, right?
Well, so this is how it's seen now, that the spiritual practices, at least that were practiced here, they weren't, it wasn't that it wasn't important. It's just that it won't get you to already this. It won't get you to already enlightenment. That doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't helpful for the character, for the conditioning, to minimize pain and suffering. So it's not that it's useless.
Mm-hmm.
It just won't get you to already this.
But it helps you. Does it help you focus?
I would say it can help minimize pain and suffering, but it can also be a trap, because what's happening is that the identity, the me sense, is identifying as a spiritual person, as a spiritual person who has all these practices and is trying to get somewhere and believes that it is doing this to get to enlightenment or purify itself or something like that. So in that way, it's just another trap. It's another identity. It's still separation. There's nothing right or wrong with it. So it's just the journey that the me is taking. And but the other thing is that, you know, even though there's no doer, even if the me sense is here, there is no real doer. There is no free will. It just feels as if I'm doing everything. I'm thinking everything. I'm feeling
Yeah.
everything. So that's very convincing. That's normal. But it's not really real. It's an illusory sense. So the thing is, all of that seemingly apparently continues even without the me sense. So what's appearing here is these thoughts, emotions, words, actions, but no one is owning it. No one is claiming it. So it's the same as what's happening there. But this illusory sense isn't, claiming any of that. So, but certain conditioning that was learned from at least my spiritual teacher, that can continue. A lot of things fell away, but certain things, certain beliefs, even certain values are continuing. It's just seen as before, the apparent before that never happened. It seemed like that was my value, that was my belief. But now it's just a belief and a value that doesn't really have, it has relative meaning, but it's ultimately just empty. It's also nothing. It's for no one.
And it's true for you and me both. Like whatever this cluster of, and it feels so real. Like if I pinch, I feel it, right?
But if I pinch, there is feeling here too.
Yeah, but that's why it's hard to say that, yeah, it's just perception. Like none of this is real, right?
It's real and unreal.
Also, the true nature of self is also real. Like it's like same thing. No deviation.
No separation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all real and unreal. So this message isn't for the me to try to mimic it, to try to put it into practice, because it can't be. It's okay if it tries. It's normal if it tries, but it can never imagine what it's like without itself. So it can't practice to become not itself. It can't.
You can't separate it. And it's just so, at times it's conflicting, right? Like, and so please hear me out. So I listened to Non-duality, but then I also hear some of the smart, intelligent guru personalities where it's like, yeah, you reincarnate to come here to learn until you are at that higher state of enlightenment, because that's the purpose. So what apparently they are saying is all of this is Maya, like it's like not real, it's like a dream. So then eventually those layers are come off until only it left is that self. So it almost sounds like a journey. It's not even like in one life. Some may get fortunate and get it in one life, but some just have to keep reincarnating in different forms. Like sometime I might be a dog or something else until I undressed all the layers and become self. But then I hear new non-duality. It's almost like there is no separation. You are here, already here. So I guess it's just so conflicting. Like I'm like, okay. At some point I get very this information gets just so mixed up, and I'm like, so confusing. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna have fun. But I no longer can have that mindset just few days and it comes back haunting again. Who am I? Why am I doing this? Why this is even important? And in a way, it's good for me because in this life, the life which I'm living right now, there has been struggles. And because sometimes I have this background, or I would say at this point, it's just all logical perception. I already kind of know that this is all just happening. Just live with it, go with the flow. I try. Nothing is impacting me as much as it used to be. Example, somebody when in my younger years, when I was not probably this matured, I would say I'm not very matured, but like maybe a little bit advancement. If you would tell me something, criticize me for something, I would carry it for a very long time, and it would come out maybe as an anger, maybe as some other things, but it would stay as a trauma or something with me. I see that difference now that I have this logical perception. I don't think I'm convinced yet, but I still have that logical perception. It no longer impacts me that much. I'm like, it's your perception. I'm going to just move on with the flow. So I see that difference. And now I don't know if that's that according to you, I don't know if that's progress. You already said that's not destiny, so it's not even journey, but like there is a difference, right? Where you are, where you have discovered it already, kind of, but I haven't. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you got the message, but I haven't. So so I'm still not there yet, So I know you're saying there is really no destination or journey, but there's a still difference where you got a message, but I'm still kind of looking.
So you can say that the difference is that there's no one here that got or lost anything.
That's very hard to believe because I'm talking to you right now. Like
Yeah.
I can hear you, you can hear me. We decided time.
Well, who is hearing? Who is talking?
Sheetal. It's Sheetal talking. But I'm not convinced with that answer. I know I'm saying that because that's the immediate what I notice. But sometimes when I am doing like, and that's why you see me, I'm closing my eyes because I don't want to really see anything. I just want to feel. And sometimes, and I know you ask this to a lot because I see a lot of your videos. I'm just so addicted to them.
Yeah.
And you said that, I close my eyes and I'm like, every time I'm going in, there is actually no Shida. It's like hollow and empty thing. It's hollow. I can't find anything. There is really nothing. And it's heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking because I'm like, people have so much to talk. They say, yeah, there is an observer. Like, like there's this negative thought. Okay, you observe it. Who is observing? There is this observer. There is this self. I can't find it. There is no. So when you asked me that, I know I said Sheetal, but if you give me a few more moments, I'll close my eyes and I'll say, it's hollow and empty. Nothing. I can't find anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's just this apparent brain that's thinking and talking happening, and yeah, no one is doing it. It's all
See,
just
but when you even say brain, it's not there, right?
yeah, the brain is also nothing. It's nothing braining. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
And that is so hard, like it's hard to believe because it's so perfectly structured.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So perfectly maintained. And so when they say, oh, not hot, it's all nothing. And I'm like, how come? How come? Because literally this microscopic veins doing its work perfectly, the heart pumping things. How can I just believe and say it's not? The moment I don't want to breathe, I have to breathe because otherwise I know that makes me feel more alive because if I don't do it, it's not going to work. It's so perfect. And I know at times you say that there is nothing, it's just happening, but it's really nothing. But isn't that a concept? Like if there is this pen, somebody made it. Even if there is nothing, somebody should own it, right? Could you understand my question? Like,
so everything is real and unreal. So this can't be understood, but it's real. It's actually seemingly appearing, but it's emptiness simultaneously. So
and you are able to see that together?
It's not a seeing. It's I mean, maybe you can say it's a seeing or a recognition by no one. So but it's not a feeling. It's not a knowing. It's this utter unknowing, because no one here is here to know anything. So it's utter unknowing.
That makes you feel lonely, wouldn't it? Is that why we continue coming back, like there are a lot of forms keep happening. Is that somehow related to karma and reincarnation? Or does it even exist?
Loneliness?
Yeah, because this whole nothingness somehow made us appear, right? Let's say it's all just exists together and it's all happening.
Loneliness is very normal. For
Right. Why
one,
would it keep happening? You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah. Let me
Today,
talk
yeah.
about loneliness, and then I'll talk about karma and reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
So loneliness, one, the person, the me sense, it can't help but feel lonely because it feels separate. It's longing for wholeness. So it's very normal to feel like something is missing, to seek for wholeness. It's very normal.
Okay.
It's not a good or bad thing. And also, another thing is this apparent body wants connection, wants bonding. So, like any living organism or like mammals, especially, they need each other to survive, to be
Yeah.
healthy. So, like that, it seems like this apparent body just gravitates toward not being so alone.
Yes.
So, that's very normal.
Okay. So it's that way, as long as you're not depressed.
I mean, depression is, that's also just what's happening and can be common sometimes.
It could be life ending too, right? For many people.
It can be very painful.
Very painful.
Yeah.
Because it happens. Sometimes you're like, what's the point?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, if it's all nothing, just go, like,
But this is nothing. This is empty aliveness. This is full on vibrant aliveness. So the nothingness is very scary and it can feel very lonely for the person. But this is also utter fullness. It's so full. It's so immediate. There's no separation. It's completely whole, inclusive of everything.
So it's liberating.
Mm.
Like, does that feel like that gives you all the answers? Like, then you feel full, like no more questions.
Well, you never get answers. So the questions can kind of dissolve, but there can still be questions. But there's just a knowing by no one that there is no answer.
Okay. So yeah, about karma though, karma and reincarnation.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So here too,
I don't want to be, next time I don't want to, like, this is one lifetime, whatever you're saying. And then next time I probably keep coming and probably will have the same thing. And I don't want to keep doing that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. There was a belief here too that karma was real. So karma and reincarnation, I don't know if it's really real, but it's in the story. It's the me sense or an entity, the person, not the person, but the me sense that is going through time, going to different lifetimes and carrying some sort of karmic load as it goes from life to life and learns.
But does it really happen? So it could have though.
So it could, but it's part of the story. So that's kind of seen to be part of the illusion now.
So so does it, pardon my ignorance on this, but because I know you might feel like, she's, is it almost mean like, as long as I have that perception it will happen. It will carry.
What perception?
Of karma. If
Oh.
I believe, if I'm still deluded and I haven't realized or got the message yet. So my belief is still like, yeah, karma exists.
That's okay.
But if I have believed that, then it will stay attached to me.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because this is so unknown. We really don't know why some apparent bodies have a dropping of the me and some don't. We really don't know why. Because many people are on a spiritual path and they do a lot of practices and healing and they're devoted to their guru, and so and sometimes it doesn't happen. So this doesn't really have a cause, and some people are not even on a spiritual path and it happens.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't hear about them so often.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know. I guess even the person might not know.
Right. Yeah, they don't know what happened.
Because that would be interesting. Like, have you met anybody who doesn't even realize?
I've met someone who has heard of others where they were never on a spiritual path. This stuff happened. Sometimes they could go into an insane asylum because they really don't know what happened. So if they tell like a psychologist, the psychologist thinks you're crazy, you've lost yourself, you don't know who you are. So many different outcomes can happen depending on the character and the conditioning. Even a lot of pain can arise after the falling of the me, and it could be more difficult than before.
Oh, that almost wants me to stop all this. I'm like, it's like, then what's the point? Like, what's the point then? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
if you...
It's heartbreaking for the person for sure, because there's relative meaning in stuff. For the person, it's very healthy to have relative meaning and to, in a way, keep living life, to continue. And but ultimately there is no knowing, so there is no real meaning. It's all in the story, and the me gives a lot of meaning to things.
Why does it happen? At some point it could have been just whole nothingness.
Yeah.
Why do we know why the animals had to happen, the bugs had to happen?
Yeah. So that's all part of the story. There's many ideas and even evolution. Scientists are coming up with theories, and even religious groups and spiritual teachers, and so they all have an idea. They all have their own concepts and beliefs. So nothing's right or wrong with it. It can give this hope for the person. But ultimately we don't know. There is no knowing.
When you say like that, all my other questions just, I'm like, what's the point even?
But you can ask. Sometimes just asking the questions.
Because one of my thing was like, I'm like, if, because you have this idea, because all these videos, all these teachings of books and Hinduism and all that, it inbuilds some concept in you on of all this process. So you have now, you can say like a story, like you say, like I have now a story, the way I believe these things work. And I would keep it that way until you tell me a little bit other, because now I believe you. And so maybe I'll tweak something, because now, okay, because I find connection with Suzanne, and then, let me change that. So I have now, but there is a still story, right? And I'm like, okay, one day, let's say magically, because I know there is no rules now, falling off me. Let's say if it happens, I'm like, why people don't, in that case, why people still, I want to say it nicely, then put it out like very, very, very strongly there. Like, why don't they just drop the form, life form? Because they can now see it's nothing either exists, or it's just part of it. Many people choose play along, and many souls like you help out others. But like you said, if there is no concept of karma, or like a good, like doing good, so you can, it's almost like a selfishness, right? Like sometimes I want to do something good so I can get something. It's the life is based on that most of the time, unless there's this selfless love, right? Because I do feel that for my kids, I'm like, I don't expect anything from them. I'm given this duty, I'll just take care of them. So that's different. But otherwise, most of the time, I'm like, okay, I'll follow the traffic rules, so something good, so I don't get a ticket and I will be safe. I will help out somebody, so I get those good points, or from the self, and I may advance a little bit, or things like that. So there is always this reasoning. So what I'm trying to say is, like, when that me falls and you can see the clear picture, don't you want to just drop this form, and I'm like, I'm not even going to leave this, because it's of no use, like, why most of the people continue, help out, do things, or some people just, like you said, just don't know and just leave alone. Don't they just want to leave it completely and be that wholeness all the time?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So this answer will vary a lot based on the character. So I'll give you my answer. I would say that what's happening here, it's first of all, it's very normal for the me sense to naturally, well, it depends on the conditioning too, but I could sense there's probably a natural wanting to help in some way, or be compassionate and giving to a certain degree. So that's already in your conditioning. It's not really, the added layer is, I'm a good person, I need to do this for my next life, or I need to gain more points somehow, or something like that's the added story and belief. So what's apparently seen here is that there's now just a joy for this expression, and a joy to interact this way. So that's why it happens, but there isn't any more real belief in the belief that I am helping another, that I am saving another, that I am improving the collective, or something like that, or I'm doing this for a better next life or something.
Yeah.
There isn't any of that. It's more like there's also in the conditioning a natural wanting to help, even though there's a seeing that there's no one there. But
I see.
if I see pain, if I see suffering, there's this movement to say or do something. And that just seems like that's the conditioning.
That's the nature of not original, like that whole nothingness or absolute everythingness.
I don't know for sure, because you can say maybe, but I don't know for sure if that is like the natural essence of it. I'm not sure. It could be.
One of the question and I had was like, is there a and it's funny to even ask because I feel like I'm going in U-turn. Like how there's this God concept. Every religion has a different God and things like that. Is it like a hierarchical? I don't know how to. Like you probably would have a certain level of dropping of me, but then there would be someone bigger than you and then bigger. Only because there might still be questions with certain entities, and then there might be someone supreme, because that's how Hinduism sometimes lay it out for you. And because it's inbuilt, since you were born, you listen to those, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Wait,
Yeah.
can I mention something else before I answer?
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned, I also wanted to mention that when the me falls away, sometimes it can be possible that since life and death is simultaneous, and it's seen that no one had a birth and no one is going to die, there's no one here in the body. The body will apparently die, but
I see.
without the me sense, it is seen that there is really not so much of a difference between living and dying, in a sense.
Oh.
When the me hears that, it's terrifying, but when the me isn't here, it's kind of just seen that this is just infinity. There is no past, no future. There is no time. There is not even a moment. It's just this. So sometimes when the me falls away and there's immense pain, sometimes you can even say there's suffering for no one. It might be a little preferred sometimes for the death of the body, which is sad to say, but at least for here, there's a preference to live, there's a wanting to live, and there's a joy. But it could be that some individuals without the me sense could prefer not living.
I see.
We just kind of don't hear about them as often, I think.
When you get this message, are you able to backtrack the forms you took, you taken so far? You know what I'm saying?
The form?
Like right now you are Suzanne, right? It might not be, now I know you, so I'm thinking how to put the question. So this lifetime, let's say the me dropped for you, and you are Suzanne as a form. Are you able to see all the forms you took so far? Because now it's whole energy. Probably there is no concept of time too, I guess, because no concept of birth, death. It doesn't impact that feeling of wholeness anymore. Am I making sense?
By forms, do you mean the past form of Suzanne or?
The form, so Susan, you could be something else in your past life. Before you were born as a Susan, you could be something else. Maybe that's when the me wasn't dropped yet. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I might have taken if it doesn't drop on me, I would probably see them as form, right? Like this living thing that bubbles. Sometimes sheetal, sometimes a bug, sometimes animal. I don't know.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Yeah. When the me sense was here,
mm-hmm.
the person really enjoyed, well, not really, but liked to do past life regressions,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently saw herself as different characters in different lives.
Uh-huh.
But that is all seen to be in the story of the me. Within the me sense, it creates the story.
I see. And then it kind of dissolves for you, and then it would no longer create it for you because now you.
So the memory of the past lives can still be here.
Mm-hmm.
The real belief in it is very, very, it's very, very light. It doesn't really have meaning. Doesn't mean you can't play with it, but it's seen to be a very interesting story for no one.
Sometimes you might not be even creating it once the me falls off, right?
Sometimes what?
Sometimes once the me falls off and you can see all of this is like a part of story, you may no longer be adding to that story. And so no forms, it's this, Suzanne was the last, now no longer any forms or anything because I'm. Does it happen? Like
in a sense, everything falls away. So it can feel as if everything is just gone, lost, but nothing was ever really had. There was never really a person that had anything to begin with.
I see.
But it can feel like a death. It can feel like a loss when the me is dissolving. And then even the remnants of the me, the memories, the strong memories and stories, and that can still happen. Like a grieving process apparently can happen. That's what happened here, at least.
I see. Does it changes anything with your Susan's relationships as a maybe daughter or brother, sister, or like does it changes how you were before and how you would be later on, like how you will live your life? Does it change?
So again, this is gonna vary. I can only tell you what happened here.
Yeah.
And,
no, from one person, like
yeah. It didn't change that much because already Suzanne had in a way removed herself from her parents a bit, and society and friends and her job. So this person was really extreme. So it does seem like, her past career is not of interest to her anymore. There's no interest here anymore. Like there's still care and love for my parents. So I call my mom sometimes. I don't really call my dad that much, but I still love and care for him. I will still talk to him if it comes along. With my sister, we're still close. We've always kind of been close. So there's still talking about normal stuff, like, fun shows on Netflix or problems that she's having. I won't say anything like there's no one there, and I will never say anything like that.
Of course, yeah. That's good to know, that you can choose to either continue however you are, or you could choose to have it less impact. One of the thing I really was, and I thought that would be the first thing I would ask, because you see the war is happening, right? And it hurts me a lot when you see that. And same in the family, somebody's really, really sick, young and sick, and so much pain, so much pain. And the third is the criminals doing all kind of cruel things. So when I get a message that not me, but like, let's say when immatures in this path, seeking path, they hear that, yeah, there is no karma, or it doesn't really matter what you do, kind of, right? Sometimes being a beginner or immature, you could get it as a wrong message. So in the beginning, when I was still kind of new for non-duality videos, I'm like, is that it doesn't even matter if you do kill somebody, don't take care of your parents, don't take care of your kids, or attack to some country who is so small. I feel like if that's the message, I mean, I'm sure the intelligent people know better, and I know better, so I obviously wouldn't do it. But I feel like it could be taken differently. And even though it's a story, it's just devastating to just see, and it could add more to my story.
Yeah.
You know, because it adds pain. Right now, whatever you are seeing in family, you know, somebody's in pain. You see war, you see people just going into the school or shooting at the place and just taking lives. Even none of that exists. It's probably just the perception. It could happen a lot more, and it could just keep adding the stories. Am I making sense? I'm like,
Yeah. It's a really good question. So I would say that this is a very unhealthy message for the person, and it can be very misinterpreted. It's very possible. And even this person misinterpreted and started to binge watch Netflix for days until her head hurt, and started drinking a little bit, and eat whatever you want. So I mean, that's just what's happening. But yes, it can be very misinterpreted, and that kind of figured itself out after a while, because the body can't sustain that much pain. So it just kind of balanced itself out. What's being said is that already that murder, those people who are causing harm to others, already there's no one there, and that's already just happening. Just like there's no one there in that body already. So the message is just saying that everything is still happening. Mm-hmm. And whether or not the me sense is here or not, murder can still happen. Even if the me sense drops, it can potentially still happen, because that's the programming and conditioning of that particular individual. And there's still preferences in the body. Like, the preference here is to not see harm done to others. So there can be immense grief and sadness when that kind of stuff is seen, even though there's a knowing that no one is really doing it. Mm-hmm. there can be, words spoken or action taken to minimize the harm, or there's just a preference to not encourage that.
When you, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so it's devastating for the person to hear that this wholeness encompasses everything, the light and the dark.
It's when you say the preconditioning part of, right? Who does that?
The programming?
The programming. Who does that? It's by individual. It's also built by consciousness itself.
It seems like it's just so when the body is born, it seems like with the environment, which is your parents and your friends and your teachers and your society and culture and media and just everything, your education, like certain things are programmed, certain things are dismissed. There are preferences in the body naturally. There's certain things that are more interesting to certain bodies.
Yeah.
So all of this is just happening, and the me takes ownership of all of it. Like, I'm a quiet person, I'm an intelligent person, but all of that is just happening.
I see. And we actually give labels, don't we? When we say just what I was saying, the war part of it, we say it's a bad thing or it's a good thing, but it's isn't it the label society kind of created?
But like, that's normal though. It's honestly, the person can't help but try to categorize and understand and make sense and take a position and identify in a certain way. That's very normal and it's part of the play. Yeah.
You know how this probably I know I took a lot of time from you.
That's okay.
You know how when I was in India, before I came here, I went with my parents to one of the guru's session, and that guru at that time seemed very smart and intelligent. I mean, I'm sure he was, but I haven't heard a lot afterwards. But that was one time when I went with them, and it was said that he can materialize things. So he would, so if anybody is critically ill, or if you have a lot of pain, he would do things, and it sounded like it was working. And if you are very poor, he would just make a gold or money or something. And so obviously I do not believe anymore on things like that, because I think I got matured in terms of like, okay, if logically it makes sense to me, maybe I'll accept. Otherwise, intellectually it should come to me. That's how I have become now. I don't know how but I no longer get impressed with those tricks. However, I wondered if he was really aware and got the message, and he was actually able to do that. Rather me just judging him and saying that, it's just tricky. He's just scamming people. Like like miracles part of the thing. Yeah.
It's totally possible that everything is possible.
Yeah, because in story you can put whatever you want, right?
Well, yeah, it's not that. It's more like this apparent body and all of the appearances, it can manifest in very different ways, and it can play around in very different ways. So an apparent body can have powers. um but when the sense of me owns it, it will claim it and say, I can heal you, and make a business out of it. There's nothing wrong with it though. Even if the sense of me isn't there, and for some reason the body has powers, it can still make a business. It can still try to make money to pay rent.
Yeah, because you still have to pay. Yeah.
But it, I would say it just depends so much on the character, because if the character doesn't care about being authentic or anything like that, it just wants, maybe it really enjoys fame, maybe it really enjoys being needed, or being seen as a powerful something.
Yeah.
There's nothing right or wrong with that. Then it can play out that way, even if the me sense isn't necessarily there. So it's really hard to say.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes I wonder if it's just when this perception happened, is it just limited to Earth? And I know it completely doesn't make sense. You know, like when I studied engineering, so I think from the scientific mindset. And when I look, like, okay, people go out of the Earth and they try to even look for the planets, and I'm like, wow, it's so vast, like it's huge. And you keep wondering what's happening in the end, like how far it goes. And it does make sense in spiritual world, because when you say it's a wholeness, it's unlimited consciousness, that is the only relief I get. But in actualization, like in this limited concept, it's hard to believe that, because I want to then find the end point, you know, because it's just so hard to accept. I'm like, I want to see, I want to visualize what's at the end. In spiritual world, it's easy to just say it's just whole, it's just unlimited, or it's just widespread. Does it get answered when the me drops? Maybe, hopefully.
Not necessarily. It's just seen that nothing can be known for sure. So yeah, it's an utter mystery, and that too is emptiness appearing as a vast universe or galaxies.
Yeah. Yes, because it does exist. I mean, in kind of this story, it does exist, you know.
Everything is real and unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to see it. You feel it. And yeah, because that's the one thing it states since this inquiry started coming to me, you know, like I remember I was like in middle school, like probably 7th or 8th grade. That's when it started. And that's where I'm like, what's the end of this? You know, like your perception goes, you are here, but your mind goes all the way out into galaxy. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, maybe when the me drops, maybe I'll see the full picture. That's how it all came to me, you know?
You can actually still be interested after the me drops. You can still be interested in that, but really there is no answer. There is no knowing.
It almost sounds like there is no logical mind. There is no logic.
This message is very illogical. It doesn't make any sense. So it can't be understood.
And it also seems like, because when you hear speakers like you and others, it's like it's also very hard to put it out for others. I know you all try, but it sounds like unless you experience it, it's just hard to convince and put it out to make any sense to others.
It's indescribable. So words can't touch it. So some sages would stay silent and say that's the closest, but really there is no closer or further away. So words can't touch it. Silence can't touch it. You could describe it as silence, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But any description is not it.
When you get the message, or when you realize it, you know it is it. That's it. You know that?
The seeking ends. There is no seeking for something else or wholeness. It's not that pain doesn't arise. Everything arises: sadness, grief, even loneliness. But it all has a lightness to it. So it's not happening to anyone. It's just what's arising. And there's this underlying sense of okayness with whatever happens. And there's no one grasping for anything anymore. Again, there can still be like addiction in the body. So the body can be grabbing for, let's say, more food or more alcohol. That's possible, but it's not the seeking energy. It's not the energy that's like something is missing, this isn't wholeness. But the body itself can still feel agitated, still feel anxiety.
That's the word. Sometimes, at times I get these glimpses and it's so hard to differentiate it. Like, oh my gosh, it scares me. It's like I'm just so sharp alert. Like literally, like it's just like, it increases my heartbeats and I get scared, and then I'm trying to change my my attention to something which is already around me, because I feel like I'll be otherwise drawn to something. And when I went to the doctor, they told me it's anxiety. But I can feel it's different. It's like, I'll give you an example. It's like I'm playing with something, and then I focus on or I get maybe like this question or this seeking or something, I don't know. And then I'm just so alert, like sharp alert, like there is nothing else than just alertness. And then suddenly I feel like I'm going to sucked into something. And so I just suddenly I have this urge to come back to my life, like whatever. Like I'm like, even if nothing is happening, I'm like, okay, talk to me, do something with me. So my attention gets driven, and it's very nerve-wracking. And it's increasing as time goes. It's increasing, and I can tell it's not anxiety. I can tell it's different. It's not disease or condition. It's pure alertness, just very sharp alertness, like razor focused alertness. So sharp. But it just stays like a few seconds and boom, go. Like the moment I divert, because I'm just afraid to go into it, like I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then I'm like, oh, kids, talk to me, do something. I don't know if I went to doctor, they gave me like pills and things. I'm like, I'm not taking them. I don't think it's that. Yeah. Does it make sense?
Does it feel scary when you're so alert?
Very scary. My heart, it's like, I feel like I'll just dissolve into it.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's gonna suck me and I'll lose this idea, this whole thing, like and I'll lose my kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm attached to them, right? And I'm like, no, I'm still not ready. And so one thing I learned from this yoga and everything is the one breathing exercise when you want, it's for actually anxiety. It's like just to roll your tongue and start. So it makes you calm and cold. And then whoever is around me, I just distract myself. I'm like, okay, yeah, what are you doing? Let's play or do something. And I get engaged and then it goes down quickly too. But it feels so real. It's like if I go in, if I let myself go there, it's end of this. So I'm not willing to go. Like I stop. But I want to make sure it's not really anxiety. And if it is really anxiety, then maybe I'll take those medications. But I really don't want to because I'm really not anxious for anything. I can feel. It's just pure alertness, like very active, very active.
Yeah.
And recently it's more frequent. Like it used to happen once in a while. Now it happens a lot. When I'm focused on something, it happens more. So we go for this martial art thing with my kids and I do it with them. And I'm always very focused. And then just at one point, it just snaps. And then I'm back. I'm like, oh yeah, what are you doing? Because I have this, suddenly I feel like I'm just gonna get sucked there. And then there's no coming back. And so it makes me worried. And so I stop myself. No, don't go.
Yeah. I think I can understand what you're saying. The sense here is that nothing bad is going to happen. You're already not there. So you're not going to lose your kids. They're already all just what's happening. So the love and care that you feel for your kids is already there. It's not owned by anyone. That apparent connection is just what's happening. So maybe the relationship in the conceptual way is not really real. But everything that's happening there is still just what's happening, and it'll continue to just happen that way.
Would you agree that I don't have to take pills?
Yeah, I would say you probably don't have to. I mean, I'm not a professional, but
obviously. I don't agree with them. I mean, I don't think they are. It's not even impacting anything. It's just momentary thing until I am distracting myself. Maybe one day I'll just let it go.
Yeah. Either way, it's okay. It's just what's happening. The body can also be triggered. Like it feels like it's in survival mode, so it can't really just relax into it. So that's okay too. But yeah, there's a sense here that you don't have to worry about anything. It's it'll be fine.
Okay. That makes me That helps a lot. Thank you so much, Suzanne. I feel so much relieved, and I feel like I'm talking to somebody who I knew like for a long time. I don't know why.
Nice.
It feels so, I don't know how to say it. You know, like when I'm actually pretty, I take time to open up.
Yeah.
This worked out perfect. Like I was really able to get through things. I did it so much.
Yeah, nice. It was really nice talking to you too.
Oh, thank you. Can we do it again? Like, I mean, not right away, but sometime
Sure.
if I'm trapped or I don't know. Sometimes I just feel very isolated.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, sounds good.